it concerns public participation in all policy areas. And these standards were adopted in 2008 by the Austrian Council of Ministers. They are available online. We have put them on the Aarhus website as well, and you can see the link here on the screen. An example from Ireland that was mentioned is that Ireland has a system of ensuring public participation at 2 levels with respect to their regulatory impact analysis. In this process, an informal public participation takes place in the screening process of a regular impact analysis. This informal consultation is not necessarily publicly advertised. It doesn't necessarily include all stakeholders, so it is kind of a rough, not so thorough version of public consultation. And in this phase, the potential environmental impacts of a proposed law or regulation are examined. Now, when negative impacts are identified, in that case, a full regulatory impact assessment must be conducted, which includes an obligatory formal public consultation, which is more thorough and more inclusive and is based on a written document. I would like to say something about the Aarhus centers, which are a very good and experiences have been good with this tool to build capacity for implementation of both conventions and EU directives. These Aarhus centers have been established with the support of the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, the OSCE, and they are set up with usually the cooperation and support of the Ministry of Environment of the country in which they are established. They are centers for the exchange of information and for the dissemination of information as well, and they serve to improve outreach to the public in general and to specific target groups. These Aarhus centers have been facilitating meetings, relevant meetings on environmental issues, access to information, access to justice, public participation, and they also have served as a third party to mediate between public authorities and civil society in certain public participation procedures. I would like to remind you or inform you that the UNECE has published several guides on implementation of these legal instruments. The Espoo Secretariat has published a document on guidance on specifically the public participation provisions under the Espoo Convention. This document was published in 2006 and is available online. It is also available in printed copy. So if you would like to receive a printed copy, you can let me know and I can make sure you receive one. The same applies to the Aarhus Convention Implementation Guide, which was published in 2000, and at the moment the Secretariat is developing an updated version of this implementation guide. It's also available online and also available in printed copy. And last year, the Secretariat published a guidance on implementation of the protocol on PRTRs. In conclusion, I would just like to say that it's clear from the recent work that has taken place under the Convention that implementation of public participation in decision-making is far from perfect. There is absolutely room for improvement, and the Secretariat is officially not supposed to have a position or an opinion, but it is clear from many information sources that there is a need to continue and keep working towards improvement and not sit back and consider the work done. We see that even when adequate legislation is in place, weaknesses remain with respect to guaranteeing the effectiveness of legislation in the reality of people's lives and environment. So we see it as important to keep a dialogue going between the relevant actors, legislators, law enforcement, NGOs, public international organizations, and in that respect, this conference is a very good way to keep the dialogue alive and to keep the discussion going, to continue the interaction between the relevant actors. And we also see that it's important to, in this dialogue, or as a prerequisite to have a viable, continuing dialogue, it's important to keep an open mind and to respect each and every point of view that is brought to bear, that is presented on any decision, any decision-making process. So I would say that a way forward is to focus on creating an attitude, a general attitude of a continuous search for progress, and not consider that perfection has been reached. Just to finish my presentation, I would like to share something with you that happened recently when a group of students visited the Palais des Nations in Geneva, and I was asked to tell them something about what we do, about the Aarhus Convention in particular. And when I was finished telling them about our daily business, a student asked, why do we even have conventions on public participation in environmental decision-making, and why would we need a convention on public participation in general? So not only applicable to the environment, but applicable to all policy areas. And then she said, shouldn't public participation be integrated in decision-making as a standard practice in all policy areas, just like gender issues, for example, are being integrated in decision-making across the board? And when you're a professional working on the topic that we're discussing today, or the topics that we're discussing, when you're working on legislation or conventions or implementation, or you're an NGO, or you're involved in any kind of civil society dialogue, it's very easy to lose sight of the wider picture. And for me, it was interesting to hear a young person who has a fresh perspective look outside the box and say, wait a minute, another way to go about this is to take a step back and to see public participation as something that is not only applicable to the environment, but can be part of standard practice across the board. And I thought that was an interesting idea that I actually kind of lost sight of in my daily work. So I thought I'd share that with you. And I would like to thank you for your attention.
Mulțumesc și eu, Renata, prezentare.